again? All right, I'm recording. Okay, and I have your permission to record.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so quick background for this. So you got this account about 2 weeks ago,
Yep.
right? And then you're looking for help on what to do. Specifically, you mentioned like where to spend, and then you have a lot of you essentially have every infantry max other than the Sargon CJ,
Yep.
and then you want advice on 3 infantry marches or what to do with that, right?
Yep.
Okay. I think the best way to go about this is I'm going to start very general, big picture, and then we'll get into commander, then equipment, then armament. And then I think by then, at least one of your two answers, questions will be like fully answered, and you might not even have the same question for the other one. Okay, and obviously it's like a back and forth. I don't want to just be talking at you the whole time.
Yep.
Um, so first of all, what is your like goal, right? So let's just say it's a year from now. What like kind of kingdom do you want to be fighting in? What kind of spender do you want to be? Just like where do you want your account to be as far as
Yeah.
the type of kingdom you're in, and then like what like what are your
So I'm
aspirations?
I'm currently in an A seed
Okay,
and very low. We just became A seed.
yeah,
Um,
I looked it up. 2714.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
okay,
And the I played with this group of people for 4 or 5 years, the like main people in leadership.
okay,
And then when I quit, I stopped playing. And eventually they got me back into Discord while they were in their last
okay.
KVK and they were just like burning flags.
You got sucked back in after two
Yeah, I got
years. Okay,
sucked back into the game,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
And but so I don't really like think that there's like, oh, I want to go be in an Imperium Kingdom or
Right.
it's more just like playing with friends, but still want to make my money's worth of I don't want to be wasting money, so that's why I'm
Okay.
more doing the coaching.
And then as far as playing with like I assume you just want to be open fielding, right? You don't have rally garrison aspirations.
So I would like to be open fielding
Uh-huh.
mainly.
Yeah.
I do. The account came with it has Xeno, it has
Yeah.
YSS, it has Theodora,
Okay.
and it has Hera at 5552.
Okay.
So like theoretically I could garrison as well as I am gonna be one of the bigger crystal tech people in my kingdom.
Okay.
However, I would like to be a last case scenario for anything. Obviously, my
Right.
gear's not that good.
Okay.
So,
And then as far as spend, what would you prefer to be spending like month to month? Like ideally.
so it's really like up in the air. I'm very impulsive.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
but I keep it very, very small until KVK.
Right.
Um, so it's mostly just like the monthly gem supply and the all the $5 pop-ups. And then like
Okay, so like the
whenever
speed
a
up one, the
recharge.
armament one, stuff like that, and then recharge.
Um, I don't do the armament one. I do the
Okay.
material and the speed up one every once in a while during recharge.
Okay.
Um,
So here, you can see the screen here.
yeah.
Okay. So oh dang, okay, it's already reset. Okay, so you did the 30-day gem one.
Yes, gem one always.
Okay.
Always the gem one.
Supply one.
The the material one or
Yeah,
the
the material. Sorry, yeah, material supply.
material I do probably like every like 2 weeks of the month.
Okay. Okay.
And then same with the speed up one. I don't do the armament one at all.
Okay. So the one for sure is the 30-day gem supply, and then
Yep.
when there's
And then
recharge, you'll spend a little more. Okay.
any bundle, any pop-up bundle I buy. So
Like
any of
like you
the
max it or
no, like the unlock bundles. Every unlock bundle. So like material, the one that gives you materials when
oh
you
yeah,
do
yeah, okay,
the gold blueprint
okay, like Vanquisher, all
and
that
when
stuff.
you
Okay, perfect. Okay,
unlock a commander. I
okay,
buy those every time.
okay. So preferably you're like a low spender.
Yes. And then for Crystal Tech, I kind of take a different approach.
Right. All
And
the
it's
pop-ups and the one mountain warfare.
every pop-up and then for sure the first Mountain Warfare,
Okay.
and then that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you. That was more the
Yeah.
question was the account doesn't have it never purchased the VIP 14 or the VIP 15 bundle, and
VIP
it never
15.
purchased King's Coronation fully. So I'm not sure if like
King's Court.
buying
Honestly, I bought King's Coronation so long ago. That was when I had no idea what was going on. I just saw a lot of people say that it was really good. And I bought it, but because it's like a one-time thing, right? And then it's just done. I couldn't
yeah.
even tell you what's in it. I just know I don't even know where I saw the video where someone said it was good, right? I'm just a noob that didn't even know really what was going on, and I bought it. Let's see, VIP 15. Let's see, a bunch of gold and stuff. 50 days of speeds here. And then what would you say the other one was? Just VIP 15?
The VIP 15. It's
Okay,
like 50 days of speed ups or something
right,
like that
right.
for $100.
For $100. Okay.
So I was
So
wondering if either of those were worth it.
so it's really interesting, right? So my experience, so I've been playing. I'm coming up on 2 years. I think I'm like 10 days away from 2 years. My experience in Rock, uh, this whole time I've been playing, is that I have a bottleneck with materials and not blueprints. And then when I'm fighting, I have a bottleneck with resources, not speeds. Right. So
I
I
I have 20 farms.
okay. So 24. Okay. Did you acquire that too recently? Okay.
So those
Yeah.
I was in this kingdom before I
Yeah.
quit. The farms
Okay.
were I think 8 of them were mine, and then one of
Okay.
the person who I gave my account to
Okay.
made more farms under that account, and we've kind of been sharing the
Okay.
farms.
Okay. Do you plan on like chaining, like during KVK? Like, are you you're into like hitting
Yeah,
bars and all that stuff?
I'm thinking I'm gonna do about 2 to 3 hours a day with
Okay.
3 to 4 marches, since I do have the Hera, the Zooge, the
Right.
YSG for the
Okay.
circular AoE.
Okay. It's like a OCD thing. Okay. Uh. Okay. So I so like anyways, just kind of like my experience with this. It's always kind of baffled me the like the obsession with getting blueprints, right? Like people love the egg event, right? And the egg event gives you blueprints. But like
Yeah,
I have so many more blueprints than I can even refine or craft. Like materials is my bottleneck. And then it was the same thing with speeds, right? Like this last KVK, I think I used about like 600 or 700. I got like a little over 2 bill KP, right? And I started out with 1800. I had a little over 1100 left when I was done, right? So like I could have gone another like KVK and a half and still would have had enough speeds. So
yeah,
whenever people ask me about like buying the VIP shop for speeds or like the bundle VIP 15 for speeds, my first reaction is like I don't understand why there's not a speeds. Now a lot of people will be like, oh, you're in a spending kingdom. Like 68 is definitely a higher spending kingdom, but I've only been here for one KVK. I was in the KVK before that. So I always wonder, like, is it because I'm a quote unquote high mid spender, um, or I'm missing something here, right? Because I don't chain. Um, I I just I'm a high mid spender. I was in a very low spend kingdom before I migrated to 68. And in the off season here, and even in my old kingdom before, though, we did a lot of forts, right? So the 1+1 forts, they're just forts
yeah,
going
we
pretty
do.
much all day, right? And just from that, uh, I have more than enough speeds. So that's something that I think maybe like every kingdom differs from kingdom to kingdom because like telling you to drop $100 just to get 50 days of speeds and some resources, I honestly don't think it's worth it, right? But if speeds is a challenge for you, um, then I guess. But like I personally don't think it's worth it. I just don't like I don't understand the bottleneck with speeds, right? Like the blueprint one, I understand a little bit more just because if you're really unlucky, I think you need 9 blueprints to be able to awaken 5 and social talented, right? But like that's something where you're saving for later on, and like I get it for someone that's maybe further along where they crafted everything they want to craft and want to awaken and refine. Maybe the bottleneck is blueprints, but I just never really got the speeds one personally,
Yeah.
right? But I hear people talk about it a lot, and it's just something that always has been kind of confusing to me. Or like are they doing something in KVK where they're burning through speeds at a much higher rate than I am? Right? Like maybe there's like a lack of efficiency there because it just doesn't seem like speed should be something that people should be worried about because you have the off season doing the forts. You can chain barbs, uh, and it just those two alone, like you're getting a lot of speeds. Because even like the stuff I'm buying, I'm not necessarily getting that much speeds from it. So I that one I don't really understand. And then I don't know if you're familiar with socks. He was in KD, just migrated out. He's gonna come back next KVK. He's a free to play, right? He's a free to play that
Yeah.
doesn't chain and has more than enough speeds, right? So like all these people that are like, I'm short on speeds, I'm short on speeds. I'm just like, I wonder what they're actually doing to be so short on speeds, and I actually don't know.
Well, I don't know yet if I would even
Yeah,
be. I haven't played a KVK yet,
yeah.
uh, with this account.
I was saying don't buy it. You know, just be really active with the force. I am pretty active with the force, especially in this kingdom. And
You
then
know, I do a lot. I have 3 accounts that are in the main alliance that
oh,
I
perfect.
run
Yeah.
forts with.
And then chain a lot. And then you should be good. If that's an issue, then maybe. But then they're like, I hear people talk about, getting like Call of the Ancients, not so much VIP 15, right? Buying out the VIP shop. King's Coronation is like a one-time thing, I think, right? So
Yeah.
those kind of things, if you do have like challenge of speeds, but I would actually um, go to a KBK and then see after that.
Okay.
Okay. Now, so it seems like you want to stay in this kingdom, 2714.
Oh, yeah, 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 for
Okay, good.
sure.
Okay.
That's the only reason I'm back into the game is
Okay, perfect.
because
So,
my friends are here.
because what I was gonna say, and I kind of always caveat this beforehand, because I do understand when I post this, a lot of people watch it, so sometimes some of the stuff I talk about is a little bit more big picture and not specifically relevant to you, but also is so people that watch it can benefit, right? Your account age and then your stats is essentially your resume. Okay.
Mhm.
And it actually only matters whether you get into a kingdom or not. Once you're there, it's how you perform, like that KVK,
Yeah,
right? So there's the eye test, right, where someone might get the stats, but they're never around when the actual fighting that's supposed to like the actual objective fighting is there. Then they just kind of get a reputation where you just kind of know like that person isn't that reliable as like a solid contributor, right? They're not there when they're supposed to be. Then there's people that
yeah,
just don't get the stats, right? Now, their stats can say whatever they want, but if it's the last KVK, they either don't meet requirements, or they don't perform that well, or they hit the stats, but you never see them, and you just see them off to the side chasing KP. That's actually how we relate to them, not the stats. Now, if you are not planning on migrating, then you kind of bypass that because, just to be frank, your resume right now, if you try to migrate, would be terrible because you have a very
yeah,
old account, right? Let's say five years old, and then I looked at the autark. It said like so autark has been around since like May of last year, so about a year. And one of the KVKs within the last year, you got 30 million kills, which is about 500 mil KP, right? So about 1/5 of your KP was from one KVK, and then the other 4/5 you like this account accumulated over like a little over 5 years, right? So even if you were like really solid, right, as a migration officer, like this is just too much of a risk. Like you could tell me, hey, I just acquired this account. I can't take that risk now. But if you're staying
yeah,
in a kingdom with your friends, literally your account age or KB doesn't matter because they already accepted you, right? You just need to prove yourself this KBK.
yeah.
Okay, so good news then, you're bypass that part. Now, the challenge with your kingdom is honestly the KP for that kingdom is probably what a strong D seed is, and then it has like a mid to low AC power. I think it's like 14 something build
Yeah, yeah,
power.
we
Yeah.
we just went up to A seed.
Okay.
We were B seed at
Okay.
up until last KVK. Like this KVK is going to be the first
Right.
KVK outside of B.
So the cool thing is because you're playing with friends, they're more understanding and stuff. So you kind of bypass it. It's just With that profile, chances are you're not going to get a lot of fighting, or you're going to get really, really one-sided fighting, right? But like, it sounds like it's just a community and having fun with friends, and like in a kingdom that you're already familiar with is important to you. Then a lot of that stuff doesn't matter as much. It's just like, given the situation you're in, what's the best you can do, right? So actually, that probably cut out about like 10 minutes of mentoring or coaching for me, because I was actually thinking like, for this, honestly, like I usually don't recommend it, but if you were looking to migrate, I would probably actually recommend like migrating to like a KBK 4, where you have time to build up your stats, where you'll actually be one of the stronger players there, and then you're already in SOC, and then KBK 5, you should have a community that you're familiar with that you can either stay or like migrate with afterwards. But if you plan on staying in 2714 because it's friends, that's what brought you back, then that kind of
Yeah.
all goes out the window. Okay. Um, Now, as far as your equipment, well, let's actually go over the commanders first. Okay. So it sounds like this guy really, really liked infantry,
Yeah.
right? And I think I don't think you should go for 3 infantry marches. Okay. The analogy I like to give for commanders, right, and especially because you don't have equipment for the third march right now, but have you ever been on like a lazy river or something?
Yeah.
Right, you're on a tube and you're just kind of floating around in a circle, right? If you jump in and you float down, it's really easy. But if you jump into the lazy river and you try to swim upstream, it's a lot of effort to not move nearly as fast or as efficiently, right? The
Yeah.
commander's cycle is kind of like that. So this game is essentially all about opportunity costs, right? So it's not so much whether something's good, right? Because it's more, okay, how is the upgrade from, say, the purple pants, Grok's Humility, to the legendary pants, right? How much does it cost versus how much are you gaining? And when you're talking about the third march for infantry, since you already do technically have a archer march and a cav march, right? You're comparing whether you're doing a third march for infantry at the expense of a second cav or second archer march. Right now, statistically, just because power creep, right, in every generation a commander comes out, and I think on average they're coming out like about every 10, somewhere between 10 and 11 months right now. Uh, if you have the third march, you're going to be trying to pair commanders that are about like 10, 11 months to about like almost 2 years older than if you were trying to do the second march of another troop type.
Mhm.
Right, so short term, like it might make sense. Hey, this will allow me to get 5 marches on the field. But if you go that route, medium and long term, you're actually going to set your account back a lot more.
For
Right?
by the way, for the fifth march, that would be a third infantry. I was not planning on doing any legendary gear.
Yeah.
I was just gonna do like purple and blue, like really cheap, and then dismantle it and make it into either a second archer or a second cav eventually.
So 2714 is already in SOC.
Yep.
Um, if you do that, in my opinion, minimum you at least need the legendary. So you need the Hope Cloak, and then the set helm for infantry for it to be like competitive in SOC, right? Because the purple helm and the chest both give you attack. I think it's like the Quinn Soul and Witch's Lineage. Is that what it's called?
I
And
was not gonna go. I was gonna go for blue. There's
okay,
blue health
yeah.
for
So
those.
now you're not only are you taking the third best pair for your infantry, but then you're also putting a subpar march out, like equipment out there. Like
Yeah.
um, it's true that if you have another march, you're going to get a little bit more output, right? But the efficiency is going to go down dramatically. So that kind of ties into what I was talking about earlier, right? If your efficiency goes down per unit of output, right? In this case, I think like kills or sub wounds dealt or deads, whatever. The amount of speeds and resources you're going to have to spend to get that goes up dramatically,
Mhm.
right? So I know people that are pulling like 2.5 bill KP with 4 marches. Like you don't need it to do a lot of output. I just don't think it's worth it. Right
Okay.
now, if the guy, and he actually did you a favor, right? Because if he actually has like another like legendary set of infantry, it would make sense. It would be harder to like move off of that. But since you don't have the equipment, I don't think it's worth it.
Okay.
Okay, like it's when it comes to the commanders, my suggestion for you, right? Like it's, I think it's pretty obvious looking at your commanders, which march is the weakest,
Yeah, the
right?
cat for
Yeah,
sure.
okay, right. So I don't. I mean, if you watch any of my videos, you probably know I'm like a William lover. I think he's severely, severely underrated. It's interesting because with infantry, I think there's Luce, that's just the best commander in the game, like not even close, right? And
Mhm.
then the next tier down is Scipio, maybe Gorgo, maybe, uh,
Yeah.
but she only pairs well with Luce. Like people have tried her with anyone else, it just doesn't work, right? But whereas Luce can almost pair with anyone, it works great. Like I've seen people recommend Luce with Epic Joan, and somehow it's like still doing pretty well in the way. It's wild, right? But it's Luce, Scipio, and then you have like Sargon, you have like Guan, you have Tariq, Gorgo, maybe kind of in between the Scipio tier and the third tier. You have a bunch of commanders there, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a very real chance when the next infantry comes out, the second best infantry pair might be better than the best cav pair. Okay, because right now probably the best cap here is Nevsky and Joan, right? And it's old,
Yeah.
but it's just the best that they could do, right? They're pretty balanced, right? If you want to get to 2 or 3 marches, but the very very top end, it's a little bit behind. Whereas like Scipio, in my opinion, is already better than Nevsky or Joan, right? If you even have someone that's like on the level of Belisarius that could pair well with Scipio, who could really pair well with anyone, uh, that march might will probably be better than Nevsky Joan, right? And Ziel Herman is probably the second best march, but since you already have all these commanders, right? Usually, I would just recommend if you don't have Gorgo, just go with Alex, right? Then it'll just be Lucha Alex, and then probably the new Imp commander with Scipio. But unless this new Imp commander really, really flops, like really flops, uh, you're actually kind of set. Like I think if you have 3 and then you want to go for the fourth march, I would actually go for infantry for the second march. That has not been the case this whole time I've been playing, but everything is almost set up, provided that the new infantry commander is in a complete flop, where infantry is going to be like the strongest troop type for probably about a year.
Mhm.
Okay, so right now you have 900 gold heads, right?
Yep.
Uh, at your spend, I'm gonna guess probably about like 200 gold heads, depending on how active you are with all the events and everything. Let's just say 200, probably on the lower side, but 200 gold heads a month. I think it's actually worth it for you to get Nevsky to 5551 and then kind of save the rest and wait until the new infantry commander comes out. We should actually be hearing about him relatively soon. I
Yeah.
saw Ahara, who I'll defer to as like she's like an expert. I figured this out. Basically, she has like an average time between commander cycles. She's Malaysian, speaks Mandarin Chinese, so she's familiar with the Chinese server. Her prediction is that mid July, I think July 15th or something, was when the infantry MGE in the Chinese server comes out, and the way Lilith has been doing the last few commanders, they actually time it with the Chinese server's MGE. And then what will probably happen is that you get the new infantry commander 2 weeks later in late July, so like July 29th for the
Okay.
infantry commander, right? So you have a little over a month, right? So you have a little over a month to get about like 200 gold heads, and then I don't know if you have gems saved up or something. Maybe you spend it for a cycle. Maybe it's not like a maybe this isn't a commander you don't have to like instant max, right? But like I think it is actually worth it just because like a 5551 Saladin William is just like that's where the biggest opportunity to improve is, right? So like
Yeah.
dropping like
And so
three
I'd be using Nevsky William.
Nevsky William 5551, and then that's just something like since you're not buying dailies, that's something that uh you can kind of decide what to do, right? Because there's like these different random events where you can kind of start slowly get gold heads for him. But it's not so much that his expertise is really good, like that good, but all four of Neski's skills are really good,
Hmm.
right? So it's worth actually getting all four skills max. I think his fourth skill is the one where you get a bunch of skill damage, right? But even like a 5-5-5-1 is probably 2 tiers better than a Saladin with a relic. Like
Okay.
it's that much better, right? So for like 360 gold heads, whatever, right? Like to actually make that upgrade, it's worth it. And then you'll still kind of
Hmm.
have the flexibility to be close enough to do the inf in a little over a month. Okay, like short term, that's where I would go. Honestly, as a, with your spend level, I think you should probably stay at 4 marches for a while until you're like kind of ahead on gold heads, right? Like your equipment's actually pretty decent. We could talk about like the micro optimizations, right? There's stuff that I would have done differently. Good news for you is you didn't do all this, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say
But
I
like
obviously I.
but really it's not so much like, oh, if you craft the dragon's breath legs, right? Like it's that much worse. Maybe you're talking about like 3 to 5% at most, probably less. It's more if something is 3 to 5% better, and then someone made that choice, uh, they're either just lack of like a fundamental understanding of this game, or just they're just kind of, you know what I mean? Like it's more like it's a reflection of the decision making, not so much like if you have the dragon's breath pants, right? Or if you
Yeah.
have the infantry pants, like your account's fucked. It's not. That's not the case. It's actually more of a reflection of the big picture decision making, as opposed to like a 3% difference in output. And honestly, it's probably not even 3%.
And
Okay,
then I
so
think something I forgot to tell you is I
yeah.
do have the infantry 10% health zenith skin.
Oh, okay.
So
Uh,
that was another reason why I was leaning towards
yeah.
a third infantry march.
Yeah,
Just
there was
because.
a time, right? There was a time wherein other like lecture school and some other content creators would recommend going that route, but I think the maybe it changes with the commander release cycles, right? Like Belisarius is not overly powerful, but
Yeah.
there was a couple of generations where the power creep was so noticeable that it just blew that meta out of the water, right? So like I would say like two years ago, you can make that argument. Like it's not even an argument now, where like you can go 3, 4, 5 one troop type and make it work. Besides maybe cavalry, but even now, right? Like you go 5 cavalry, you're missing out on Luce, right? You're missing out on Ziel and Herman.
Yeah.
Like depending on this like second, it's you're missing out on so much. And like the fifth, like you have to run Saladin as part of the 5 march, right? You have to run XY, you have to run like Justinian, and
Yeah.
it's noticeably worse. And even if you get like like a 15% health boost to it, like does it actually cover all the debuffs and all the stuff you're missing? Like I don't think so,
Mhm.
right? Um, Yeah, but like since you have two infantry, right? If you do the four and two of your marches are infantry, so like half your marches are benefiting from, you could literally do the math, right? Because if you get 10% health and 10% health, and then you lose 5 and 5 of something else, which is usually like archer will lose 5 of this, cav will lose 5 of this, you're gaining 20% health, and you're losing 10% of a worse stat, like a 5% attack, 5% defense on your archer
Yeah.
cap, right? It's worth it. So like that's still a positive, but I wouldn't use that as like the decision, like the factor that makes you go 3 or more in.
Gotcha.
Okay, and I get it. It kind of hurts, right? But like really, what you're like thinking about right now, based on what you're telling me, is like okay, you're like benching Tariq and then Alex, right? Because if you're running what's on the screen here, Gorgo, Luce, Juan, Scipio, then really like commanders that are in the conversation is Tariq, probably the main one, and then
Yeah.
Alex, which really I've tried Alex with Scipio, I tried Alex with Guan, didn't work that well. And all of a sudden with Luce, he's like a superstar, right? So then is it Alex or is it
And
actually Luce?
would you even say that Luce Alex is better than Gorgo Luce?
I
Or
so I made a video about this. I personally think Lucha Alex is the best March in the game. Um,
is
it
that even with using arch formation?
That's using arch formation, and I have
Okay.
Greatest Glory and Ring with it. I don't know if you're familiar. Lucha's expertise gives you an extra 25%. So basically, every 4 turns, you get an extra attack, right?
Hmm.
When you get an extra attack, you also get extra rage. I forgot the exact rage number, but when you get an extra attack, it's essentially like a horn, but better. Because a horn, you get 50 rage. I think when you get a bonus attack, don't quote me on this. I want to say it's 70 something rage. So another way to think about it is uh, if you put a horn on Luce, every 4 times that it procs, one of the four is actually going to go to waste because it's going to severely overrage and it's not worth it.
Mm.
So that's why I
That was
did.
a
Yeah.
that was another thing. I'm not sure that the accessories are necessarily on the best marches.
Yeah, like right now, if I was doing this like on the screen, right, I would actually put the lucky coin with Guan
Guan.
just
Yeah.
because really off the top of my head, I can only think of like Constantine and Guan that benefit from a shield, right? And then even then, it's probably not worth it. But since you already have it crafted, it's something where if it was me personally, I don't know if you heard this quote before, like I think the quote is like, "What must be done eventually can be done immediately." But like, I would just dismantle it. I would see it more as like, "Hey, I have 60 legendary mass now, right?" And then I could just pivot into something else. Like the
Yeah.
dagger, even the what is that called? Pendant of the Eternal Night, where you get 5% skill damage, right? That still has like a clear like, maybe it's not as good as a horn or a ring, but it's still like it's 5% skill damage. It's still like solid.
Yeah.
Whereas like a 500 damage factor shield every whatever, like I don't even know the actual percentage, right? Like it's you can put it on Guan, but then Guan's probably going to get benched, end of July, right? Then what are you going to do
Yeah.
with it? So that's something, maybe keep it for now, maybe for the next ABK, and then at some point just cut the core rather than like continue that. I would actually just dismantle that, and so you can just kind of move on to something else. If I was going to do the accessories for the Lucia March, I would do a Greatest Glory and a ring. And then for the second infantry, I mean, depending on whatever it is, right? It could be something where maybe like they benefit from a shield greatly, like, but it's just a horn and a ring. Same thing with the archer march, and same with the cat march. Like the dagger, I think if you do the math, because essentially what's happening is if that debuff procs, right? Your thinking is okay. If I get, I forgot the exact. Is it a health or defense debuff? I actually just blanked out. Regardless, it's one of the defensive stats, right? It's how many marches are hitting it, right? Because if you have one march and you debuff the target with whatever the debuff is, and you just have one
Yeah.
march hitting it, like I would just straight up take a ring over it because the ring math comes out to about 5% all damage, right? But when you
Mhm.
have 5, 6, 7 marches hitting it, right? And you have that many marches benefiting from the debuff, you can start making a case for something else. So definitely keep the dagger around, but it's just something where it benefits the more marches you have, right? Because
Yeah.
if it's someone else, unless someone is way out of position, people are just targeting whatever. They're not necessarily always going to be targeting the same thing. But if you have multiple marches, you're always targeting the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as far as equipment, so anyways, any question with the commander? So I talked about like the lazy river thing, right? Like I think Herman
Yeah.
is the second best commander in the game, right? He has it all. He doesn't do as much damage as ZL, but I think these three things are very necessary, right? You need AOE, you need ability to boost skill damage, unless you're a smite commander, and then you need march speed, right? Now,
Mhm.
if you think about Boudica, she doesn't have either. So her kit looks really good, but for most people that have used Boudica, it's just very frustrating. For someone whose kit looks so good, why does she just seem to not perform as well as the other commander? It's because she doesn't have any of the three. right?
Mhm.
Now I did run ZL Boudica as my main archer march when I was running some marches this last KVK. It did surprisingly well. I ran Boudica ZL the KVK before, and ZL primary does way better than Boudica primary,
Got it.
right? I think it's like, and I figured this out uh, for almost like, because like Lucia primary does way better than Alex primary, right? I think you want to get that 5 target AoE off, or like the AoE off a lot more. So even though if Boudica hits the target, they take 35% more skill damage. It's not worth it, right? Because sometimes you get the first proc off, not the second, where you just want ZL as a primary. Okay.
Okay.
Now, even though Herman is really good, I don't think it's worth it for you to backwards invest, because right after the infantry cycle, right, sometime between like 70 to 90 days on average, then the archer is going to come out. Now, at that
Yeah.
point, hopefully you saved up enough. So if the new archer pairs great with ZL, then you invest in the new archer. If not, then you invest in Herman, right? So you see how like you don't kind of swim upstream, you kind of just
Yeah.
save for the next one to come out. And ways to really mess up your account is when you're already gold head starves and then you're trying to get these commanders that are actually really good now. Like Herman's really good now. It's just the costs that the amount of setback you'll get from going for Herman, while trying to upgrade your cav march, and then these new commanders are going to come out and then you can't actually catch up. That's actually more frustrating than just using ZL Boudica, which is actually a really good archer march for what, 3 months, 4 months, where you're
Yeah.
ahead. Okay. Now, if you're pretty far ahead, then you might want to consider a fifth march. Traditionally, people have gravitated towards calves just because calves, up until recently, have always been the strongest, like by far the strongest, right?
Yeah.
There's been a time when archer was the weakest, when infantry was the weakest. And then cav, they have that built-in advantage with the march speed. I don't know if it's deliberate that Lilith is just releasing single target commanders for Cavs, which have really like kind of pulled them back to the pack. And I like, unless something crazy happens, which I think the community would be an outrage. I think infantry is going to be the strongest. Uh, for like, I think it's the strongest now, just because whatever march you have with Lucha is so much better that it almost like makes the second march, like you can argue that Guan Scipio might not be better than the second march of the Archer or um, Cav. It depends. There's a preference, but the first march is so good that I would actually say even before the new infantry commander is out, I think infantry is in the best place right now just because of Lucha, right? And
Mhm.
then if the new infantry comes out, it's pretty good. Then you already have two of those. Like you're actually in a really good spot to run 4 marches and probably run the best 4 march setup that you can do.
Okay.
Okay,
And
but
then, point of clarification: the hammer is at 75 out of 100. So I almost feel
for
as
crit,
that
yeah, just crit it.
I have to refine it.
Yeah, yeah, just crit it. Now you can see here, right? The way I have the commanders, right? This is going to be your slowest march. Gorgo has no march speed, so that's why I put that set with that commander. Even though you could argue that the one with the Guan skip is probably a little better, right?
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, you can make that argument, but march speed is really important. It's not so much that like you need so much, but you need to at least have a minimum threshold, because when you're right around the minimum threshold or lower, you start missing out on a lot of opportunities. It's hard for you to get away. It actually starts really dragging down the performance of that march, right? If Gorgo even had 10% march speed, I would actually be like, I think Gorgo Alex is the best march in the game, right? So I think it's really close, but because she doesn't, and because I think Alex's debuff is that good, and then when I'm using them in the field, I think because of Alex's instant proc, like when I pull up the reports, right? And I have the report manager where it's literally tracking every single report, compiling it. So it doesn't matter what I feel, right? Like I like over thousands of reports. The Lucia Alex March is doing like 60% more sub wound like than any other March out there. And then having used it, I think it's the best march in the game. But if someone wanted to make an argument for Gorgo Luce or Scipio Luce, like I'm not gonna be like you're wrong.
So
It's
are
almost like
you
a
almost
preference.
saying that I should bench Gorgo and run Luce? I have uh the first artifact for Alex, and I have 12,000 museum
Okay.
coins.
Um.
Are you almost saying I should bench Gorgo and run Luce Alex?
So here's it's a personal preference, right? I have a good buddy. I don't know, Big Kane. He loves Gorgo
Mhm.
Luce, and he's very very knowledgeable. Okay, he thinks that's the best march. Alex is faster. Alex has a better debuff. Alex, you can't cheeseburger Alex, right? Like when you cheeseburger Alex, you're gonna trade negative. Uh, Gorgo Luce also trades really well. It's gonna trade better than Luce Alex if you're gonna stay connected. There's like fighting, right? But like a lot of the fighting is just like you connect, you disconnect, you connect, disconnect. Um, Gorgo Luce is gonna duel a lot better, right? But it's also slower. And like I personally prefer March speed. I prefer being able to cheeseburger if I want to, kind of having that anti-cheeseburger ability. And then also I really like the debuff. And I've never actually used Gorgo. So what I'm saying is only what talking to other people that use both and what they prefer. I actually thought of investing in Gorgo going into this KVK. And after talking to a bunch of people about it that have used both, I decided not to. And then having used Lucia Alex this whole KVK, I used Scipio Lucia the KVK before. I personally prefer Lucia Alex over Scipio Lucia. So heading into
Mhm.
this KVK, I thought Scipio Lucia was the best march in the game. And afterwards, it actually feels weird to say it, but looking at the reports, just based off of like the eye test or the feel, I personally think Lucia Alex is the best. It's not going to show up in the duels, but anyone that's used it on the field almost all say the same thing. So I would say for you, since you have both, right? Don't put the museum. Just kind of try one and the other, and just pick the one you like more. Now, as
Okay.
far as like longevity, I think they're both about the same. They both right now have to rely on Luce, right? So, uh, and neither one pairs really well with Scipio. So if a commander comes out that if a commander comes out that pairs well with Luce and Scipio, right, you're gonna break it up because or else you have to run Kuang Scipio, right? So you're gonna pair the new commander with Scipio, and then you kind of just have to choose between Alex or Gorgo. But you're not gonna choose both, right? Because you're not gonna take Alex or Gorgo over Scipio to pair with the new commander most likely,
Mhm.
unless unless it's a Smite commander. But even then, like it just depends, right? Like just like I think if you think about all the combination of scenarios, it's the least likely that it's the least likely that Scipio will somehow not make it just because he's so well balanced and he's already proven that he could pair well with a Smite commander. Uh, it's Guan's definitely gone. Although not definitely, 95% chance he's going to be gone, right? And then you have to choose between Gorgo or Alex. I would choose Alex, but there's also people that prefer Gorgo. It's really really close.
Mhm. And then would you say that my next step for equipment wise would be getting four more legendary
Okay, yes.
accessories,
So for
and
this, right, the good news for you, like at your spend level, and then this is like this is pretty far ahead, right? Because I don't know what this guy did because I counted. There's 27 legendary equipment and he has 10 crits.
he refined a
Okay, so he
lot.
refined.
I
Okay,
know
okay,
I know the Ash of the Dawn
yeah,
was from a craft
okay,
because
okay,
for some reason he decided to craft it right before I got the account,
yeah,
which was kind of weird, but
yeah,
it
yeah,
crit, so I can't be mad about that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean that's like actually a good crit, right? So for this, let's go to equipment, right? First thing I would craft is the cavalry chest, right? If I was recommending what to do as far as cavalry equipment, First legendary should be the boots, right? Because
Mhm.
the cloud racer, I think that's what it's called, gives you attack, and you're going from attack to health, right? And then the cab epic chest, I think, gives you defense, and you're actually
Yep.
going from defense to health. And then when you go to health too, you actually get the two-piece bonus. Um,
Well,
I
I have the 2-piece bonus right now.
Right, but you're still going to go from defense to health, right? So
Yeah.
the the this might be something you worry down the line, right? Like if you actually decide that your fifth march is going to be a cab, then you actually want to craft a part of the con. So for example, I was really behind on armaments for a while, so I had to use the season coins on robust, and I crafted a cav set helm. And at some point, I'm probably going to dismantle that, just because you only need two pieces for the cabs for the best of the best, right? For that equipment, and
Mhm.
the part of the con just straight up gives you 4% more defense. Never mind, like each awakened tier, you get a little bit better stuff, right? So at some point, I'm probably gonna have to dismantle that. It's just not now, but I was running a blue helm for like two KVKs. I just couldn't take it anymore. I crafted the cap set helm, right? So um, that's way down the road. Okay, I wouldn't dismantle any of this legendary. The only one that I probably would is the lucky coin. I just don't see
Mhm.
a scenario where that thing's really useful, right? So rather than thinking of it as like, oh, like, 100, is it 100 or 120 legendary mass? I don't even know, right? So you either get 50 or 60 back, right?
120.
But instead of thinking
I
about
get
it
60
like,
back.
okay, instead of thinking about it like, oh, like it's gone a waste, it's more like, okay, I have like a 60 legendary mat head start to craft something else, right? It was back in a time when there was a lot less legendaries, and like I don't know, shielding, maybe it made more sense, but now it like I wouldn't take that. If you gave me a lucky coin or the 5% March speed flag, I would probably take the flag for March speed, right? Because
Mhm.
like 500 damage factor is 20% more than just like one white damage, right?
Right.
White damage is about 400 damage factor. That's it. You hit it, it's gone, right? Now, if you have the shield, you benefit, you get skill damage, all that stuff that matters. But if Guan's gone, like unless this new commander somehow benefits from a shield, I can't even make that, right? I can't even justify it in that way.
Mhm.
So rather than hold on to it and just like keep using it, it's like, oh, it's legendary, right? Just actually look at what it does, and it just doesn't really keep up. So what I would do with this equipment, I would actually craft the set chest for the CAD first, then finish out your accessories. Okay, now from there, all the stuff you have crit, you could take it to Wiccan 5. The general rule of thumb is um, if you don't have a crit, you want to go to Awaken 2, then you want to crit it. Then later on, if you want to take it to Awaken 5, you can. But
Mhm.
I don't think that should be done at the expense of like going to however many marches that you can support, right? So when you go to X amount of marches, 5, 6, or 7 marches, one, it's going to cost you a lot more gold heads, right? Because you need to actually max some of the commanders, but then you need the equipment to build it. Then you need more armaments, and also your speeds and your resource cost is going to go up,
Mhm.
right? Whereas if you have 4 really good marches with really good equipment, you're going to be very efficient, and like the output will be a little bit lower, but like if you're like a low spender and you're worried about speeds, maybe that's the way to go where you don't have to worry about speeds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now with the armaments, uh, people tend to want to look at the stats, right? Especially when it's clean or like, oh, I'm going to need 30% of stats. The inscription actually matters more.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if it's a decent inscription, that's going to be equivalent or better than 3.5 attack, defense, or health that you can get from there. Okay. So for all the things I would probably not have done with this account, whoever the previous owner was, I think he actually did a pretty good job with the inscription, right? Because I mean, with the armaments, because based on the account age and like where everything's at, it's probably a low spend at most. Like if you told me it was a free to play, I would
Yeah.
actually believe you.
He was very low spender.
Okay,
I think it was like $300 maybe total over the 5 years.
okay. Yeah, so let's just go over the arch armament first, right? It's cleaned. Stats are a little low, but he's getting like 3.9% all damage. And then all five of these armaments are pretty solid. And obviously, you have destructive. I would actually make an argument destructive is probably the worst scroll out of it thing people get, just because if you look at the description, um, the rare one actually seems to do better because it's like over the next 2 seconds, whereas destructive it's only the next turn when you get that boost. But regardless, like it's still good. Like it's still really good. Right? I'm not like it's still really good. And you have five inscriptions on there, so obviously you have a double, right? But all five of these are pretty solid. Uh, that
Mhm.
one's that one's like done. Like I wouldn't touch that one unless you just got lucky and you pull like a double or a rare where you can upgrade it. But like, I wouldn't even actually
Mhm.
waste any transmutation stones to re-roll it because what you're re-rolling is for a little bit more stats, right? So let's just say you have a 1.5 health on the armament. Even if you get to a 3.5 health, which the chances are very, very low, you're just getting a 2% health boost. For the amount of like transmutation stones that you're probably going to need to use to get that, it's just not worth it, right? So opportunity cost, you can look for it somewhere else. The
A big reason why his health is low on that is
because of
because
the all
he has
damage.
the two all damage. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now the archer one is also really good. I I think is brawler and infamy both attack.
Um, Brawler is skill damage
Okay.
and Infamy is attack.
Okay. And then artisan is like all damage but with some conditions. I think
Is skill damage.
it's skill damage. Okay.
3%
Cool. Okay.
skill.
Yeah. Okay. And then war hunger is attack, right?
War Hunger is normal damage.
Normal damage. Okay. So like those are all actually solid. Like for example, calm sucks. Okay.
Mhm.
Calm is not good. There's a couple others. If I see it, I recognize it right away. I can't remember it, but the Archer one is actually really solid. Like not even really solid. It's like if you had another special, it's I would call it elite, but there it's like the step right below elite. Like both the Arch and the Archer one's really good. I actually really like the Cav one. Breaker, Vitality, and Focus Fire are like if it's not going to be a special inscription, those are like three of the best that you can get.
Yeah.
Right. So ideally you get one more inscription for that. Obviously you have one that doesn't have an inscription. But those three are all in a like really good place already. And then the second infantry obviously has a lot of stats. If you're looking for more inscriptions. Okay. So ideally you can just pull a inscription from like one of those shards and you could just inscribe something that you're missing. But a lot of people are also like pausing right now on investing in Wedge for infantry, just because there's this fear that if another Smite commander comes out, literally the whole skill damage thing doesn't benefit it,
Yeah.
right? So that's something where I wouldn't specifically go out of my. It sounds like you don't really spend on armaments anyways, but just know that like if there was one you needed the most work, it would be the Wedge infantry. Really,
Mhm.
any kind of inscription, you should try to roll for infantry and then replace it. Or ideally, you could just get an inscription to put on something you already have. That's decent. That would be a lot better.
Would you say Daring would be better than the Infamy on
Infamy
that
is,
infantry?
you said infamy was skill damage, right?
Infamy
No, the
is three and
attack.
a half percent attack, and then
Okay.
Daring is 2.5% skill damage.
Um, I would say daring is better, but it also
Okay.
depends on what you're going to be pairing on that wedge, right? If you're doing a smite commander, then that completely goes to waste.
Mhm.
So that's why like once you get an infantry to come out, you have like 10 months or 11 months until you have to worry about it again. But until
Mhm.
then, you just don't really know, right? Because I kind of mentioned this. Attack benefits smite a little more than skill damage commander, um, because when you boost skill damage, right? And I use the word boost. That's kind of like inappropriate now, just because the way Lilith assigned decided to use the verbiage. When you boost skill damage or normal damage, it's like multiplicative, whereas when you do a skill damage increase, it's additive. Um, but like when I say boost skill damage, I just mean like you're increasing skill damage. Okay, when you're increasing like skill damage, you literally have to have a skill damage increase or skill damage boost to increase it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas any kind of normal damage increase will increase smite damage. Now, if you look around at the commanders, right, there's actually you don't get to increase normal damage that much, but smite is so good right now, not because you're boosting or increasing normal damage so much. It's because none of the skill trees, and off the top of my head, besides like maybe like Honda Tadakatsu, ZL's like 15% damage, all damage debuff, there's not a lot of things that actually mitigate smite damage. So it's essentially getting to launch an active skill without any kind of like defense against it, right? Whereas like skill damage, if you put like Joan with William, right? It's like, oh, double AoE, why doesn't it work? Well, neither of those commanders increase skill damage. So even though it's double AoE, it's actually not pumping out as much damage as people think it should, right? So
Yeah.
because of that, I think attack is a little bit more valuable for smite damage commanders. Um, just because you just want attack to increase the normal damage, which increases the smite damage, right? You don't have to still rely on the skill damage increase. I think it's slight. It's not like, oh, like it's so much better, but I think you can make a case. That's why like the infantry legs that you crafted, right? That gives you attack. It's not that as bad on a smite damage commander.
Mhm.
Okay. Did you? I'm sorry. Did you ask something? I felt like I went off on a tangent.
Um,
You asked for
I
infamy
didn't.
and daring, and then anything after
Yeah.
that?
So I moved all of the infantry armaments, like kind of infantry armaments that have um a the inscriptions together,
Yeah.
and it is calm, armored, vitality, and daring,
Okay.
and then it would be 4.2% attack, 6.4% defense, 6% health, and 2.5% all damage. Would you say that is a better than
I would take that. I might just is a calm just a single inscription,
yeah.
and does it get really high stats? Is it like triple
It
stat?
has it has 1.7 attack, but then it has 3% defense and 3.4% health.
Okay. So you said it was four inscriptions. So you're adding armored and daring to this.
Yeah.
Armor is 3.5% attack. I mean defense.
I'm also switching infamy to vitality.
Yeah, I would take that. It doesn't look as pretty, but I think it's better. And then that is something you could re-roll to like kind of get rid of uh, the irrelevant stats, right? You might not be able to get as high of a stats, but performance-wise, it's going to do better,
Mhm.
right? So I always tell people this, like, do you care more about your OCD or just performance? And then people pick whatever.
Yeah.
But the four inscriptions and subbing out the infamy is going to be better.
Okay.
All right. So big thing, as far as a spend, for the amount you're looking to spend, I actually think that's the right amount. Uh, when I'm doing like migration, right? Like once people are in a range, it's all about the same thing, right? Like the equipment, like whatever, right? But uh, something that's really underrated is like how far you go in crystal tech. It makes a huge difference, and I actually hate saying it because I know people hate it, and like I want to like free to plays can grind and whatever. But like going further in crystal tech covers so much, right? The other one
Yeah.
is just how much time you're playing. If you play a lot and your crystal tech's in a good place, like your equipment could be 10%, 15% worse than this, and you'll actually probably be one of the strongest players in your kingdom
Yeah.
based on the profile, right? Like it's actually time played and then how far you get in crystal tech, and this is already more than good enough. Okay, but if I was gonna work on it, I would definitely get the cab chest. Get rid of the lucky coin. Um,
Mhm.
don't put the horn on Lucia. Try to get a greatest glory there. Like, if you want, finish out the
So
set and then move on, or just stay at 4.
where would I move? Like what would you have me get rid of accessory wise, and then what would you have me add on? So obviously I'd be keeping the
Okay.
horn, the dagger, and the pendant that I have right now,
Okay. So
and then thinking I would dismantle the purples and the lucky coin.
yeah.
What would
So
be ideal?
okay. So me, me personally, if I was doing this, I would dismantle the silent trial once you could get a blue flag. I'll put a 5%, like, ideally you could crit it. I don't know if you already have a blue flag, right? If you get 6.5% march speed, even better. But ZL Boudica will benefit a lot from just more march speed, right? Whereas like
Mhm.
the silent trial, like it's hard to even tell what it's doing, but I if you just gave me straight up like rage reduction or 5% march speed, I would take 5% march speed, and you get more material back, right?
Okay.
I would put the pendant of the I if I was gonna do the pendant of the Eternal Night, I would leave it on the ZL Boudica March. That one benefits the most from skill damage increase.
Mhm.
And when a flag there, the lucky coin I would get rid of. I personally think the ring is the best accessory in the game. Uh,
Okay.
I think there's agreement to that, but then every once in a while, I make a video or something, people will get real upset and argue against it. But I like Rage, but I think it's almost kind of overrated how much people fixate on Rage. Like I really don't like Feral Nature in the skill tree. I think that what it takes to get there, and if you actually look at what it does and the chance of over raging and the amount you have to go there, personally, I don't think it's worth it. But if you look up like a Chisco video or whatever, right, like he loves Feral Nature, and like that's a debate we can make like mathematically. I don't like Feral Nature. I prefer stuff. I think it's called like Burning Blood, maybe, where per basic attack you'll get something lower, like 8 or 10 rage, right? Like those add up over time will be a lot better than getting a bunch of rage in one turn where you could over rage. It's just like that's my personal preference. I think mathematically that also bears out that way. Okay, but
Mhm.
if I was gonna crap here, I would get rid of the lucky coin. I would get a ring. Uh, For the Luce Gorgo March, I would actually put a ring and a Greatest Glory on there. I will move the dagger to the Cab March. The idea behind having the dagger on the Cab March is because it's debuffing, you want the fastest march, so like it theoretically will get the most hits in, right? It'll get there faster. It has more chances to do the basic attack to actually trigger it. And
Yeah.
then if it's Nevsky William, if it's Nevsky William, I actually probably would go Horn. So like horn dagger for that. And I'm gonna post this video latest tomorrow, maybe probably tomorrow, right? So if you want to just review it, go through it, you can see the whole video. But I would
Yeah.
do probably dagger horn based off of what you have for the Nevsky William March, Zio Boudica, Pennant of the Eternal Night, and then when you get a chance, I would I just like ring more. I'll probably do ring independent of the Eternal Night. And
Okay.
then Greatest Glory and Ring for Luce Gorgo or Luce Alex, whichever march with Luce, and then Horn and Ring for Quan Skip. And then don't know what the new infantry commander is. Uh, if it's Smite, then Greatest Glory just becomes extremely good, right? But if it's not, like Horn Ring is already good enough, right? But I like besides a coin, I wouldn't dismantle anything.
Okay.
Okay. Any other like questions? But back to the spin. If I was gonna like I actually wouldn't do anything different with the spin that you're talking about.
Okay.
Like if I wanted to maximize my performance and I had all this stuff and I just wanted to spend that amount, I would actually just do the the recharge and stuff like that, like you said. And then if I do spend more personally, I would actually spend more on Crystal Tech. I know people don't like it, but it just makes such a
So
huge difference.
that's actually what my question was,
Yeah.
is should I be going for the VIP chest or the um King's Coronation, or should I be maxing a second Mountain Warfare?
Um. Oh man, I wish I knew. I remember what was in King's Coronation. I bought that thing so long ago. If what you're getting out of King's Coronation is speeds, I would wait.
Yeah.
Right. If that's the main thing, like, oh, it's so good because of speeds, I would wait. Just see if you
Okay.
even need speeds. Because if you don't need speeds, like if you were telling me that King's Coronation is really good and I bought it, I'm like, I just got a bunch of speeds and I spent $180 to get gems and speeds. I'd be like, what the fuck? I could have bought like I could have bought other stuff like Esmeralda's wheel or something to get more mats, right? Because that's where all my money is going into right now. But I don't think you would actually know if you need speeds until your next KBK. But with 4 marches, and then with this equipment and armaments, and if the commanders get to where I think they're going to get to at the level you're playing at, I think you should be able to be really efficient. And then
Okay.
right? Oh, one thing I did forget to ask, because the screenshot you sent me, uh, was that from a phone?
No, I snipping tooled on my PC.
Okay, so you play on PC, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, like the
For the
single.
most part, I'm
Okay,
playing
perfect.
on
Yeah, if you're
PC, yes.
fighting, fight on PC. The single biggest difference, from when I first started like the second account mentoring and stuff now, it's been about 3, 4 months. So I've had a number of people reach back out afterwards to kind of give me an update. And every single one of them where I told like when they weren't using a PC, like it made such a huge difference. Like it's
Yeah.
like I'm a shit player if I go and try to use play on the phone right now. And I know what to do. I just can't do it on the phone.
So I'm piloting an account for the kingdom, kind of like
Yeah.
someone is uh he like got a new job or something, so
Yeah.
I'm playing his account for him.
Mhm.
So I will most likely be playing that account on my phone,
Okay.
but the main account should be PC the whole time.
Okay. Yeah. If you could play that that account from on your PC too, that would be ideal. But
I don't know
not good.
how to play multiple at
Uh
the same time
oh, at the
because
same time? Okay.
BlueStacks doesn't work on my computer.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. Yeah, I'm not I'm not sure, but it's a noticeable difference for me.
Okay.
I do think the new dot mode has made it a little bit easier, but
Mm,
a lot of what I do, like I hotkey to different groups, and I'll like move some that are lower back while I move the others in. I just don't know how I would even do that on the phone. I do know a few people that actually do really well on the iPad. So if you did it on an iPad, because I never used it, I don't know. But with a phone, I can't personally get it to work. And
okay.
yeah,
And then would you say that like I shouldn't be going for a new city skin at all?
like Zenith.
No, not Zenith, as in like the crystal shop, the
Oh, you mean the
spending
KVK
season
shop?
coins. Because I currently, because I'm going to max tech,
Yeah,
I will have a surplus of season coins.
yeah,
Would it be better just to be buying blueprints to then awaken?
yeah. So
Or,
I don't think you should go if you're talking about specifically for like the Twilight Falls. I don't think you should go for that.
yeah,
One, you literally have a march that doesn't benefit from it, right?
yeah,
And then if you have 4 marches and 2 of them are infantry, I think you lose like 10% attack or something. 10% attack from
hmm,
Twilight Falls. Like you're gaining skill damage on 15% skill damage on 3 marches, right? And then you're losing 20% attack on 2 marches. Like,
I was more
yeah,
thinking towards the troop defense 3% and the healing speed
yeah.
3%
If you're
of Persian Dream.
if you already have the legendary like infantry health one, I would just use that one.
Okay,
I think that's like pretty slam dunk. Like if most people don't have that luxury. Like if you have
yeah,
that, I would just stick with that.
okay, sounds good.
Okay. Anything else that we didn't cover?
No, I feel like that's pretty much everything.
All right, awesome. Yeah, just if anything, kind of give me an update after the KBK. Let me know how things go, or you have any other questions.
Yep.
But
Okay.
yeah, like it. And it's good that you're coming back to a community you already know and everything. That would be way easier. Because honestly, I thought about like a third to a fourth of this call was going to actually be on like migration and like
Oh, no,
building
no,
your
no, no.
resume, things like that. So
Even if I did want to migrate,
yeah.
I know a lot of people in a lot of different kingdoms
Okay,
to where
perfect. Yeah.
like if I really needed to migrate
Okay.
or like wanted to,
Yeah.
I would be like, "Hey, remember me?" And they'd be like,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah," like
Yeah. Yeah.
because I mean I was getting 3 to 4 million tier 4 dead
Yeah.
uh
And then it sounds like
in my
you were
KVKs, and
like
I
really
was
really helpful in like a bunch of unmeasured ways in KBK, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I have a it has the account came with like a windswept set on the cow. I'm assuming it's like an arc to go grab stuff faster. Would
Either
you
either
recommend dismantling that?
either that or like a barb chain or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just let's see. I don't think it's worth it to keep a set just to go grab a rune faster, right? Or just to be a little bit faster with your CC and arc.
Yeah.
Um, I could see an argument if you plan on doing like 5 march chaining
No, I was
and
just
right,
three
which but you
marshes.
already have 4 sets of equipment. Like I would just dismantle it.
Okay.
Yeah, but first thing I would craft is the cap chest. Like
Cab chest
that'll
and
be
then
the
accessories and then a fifth march based on
yeah. I
how
would
archers look.
5th March. I could actually give you a more clear answer once the next inf comes out.
Hmm.
But like, I think it's more important for you to get like you don't have to have 5 marches to be highly productive.
Yeah.
You know, like
So
I
do
like
the
it.
accessories and chest and then reach
Yeah,
out to you once new infantry
yeah.
comes out.
Like for you, because for like a low spend, like where everything's at, I think it would actually benefit you a lot more, where you feel like you're kind of like ahead, right? So
Yeah.
let's just say your 4 sets are all in a pretty good place, and you have like 1,000 gold heads saved up or something, right? And it's like, okay, well, I could spend these mass to like squeeze out 1.5% to upgrade it at one more awaken level, or then I could go to another march where, uh, potentially I could get like 15, 20% more output, right, at the
Yeah.
cost of some efficiency. Then like the math checks out. But like if you kind of try to go in too early without getting this settled, like just like every aspect of like because you need the armaments, you need the speed, you need the resources, you need the gold heads. Like all those things are stacking. Um, I don't think it would actually help your account. I think it would actually set you back.
But but
Okay,
sounds good.
awesome, man. Anything else?
No.
All right, cool. Yeah, thanks. It's just yeah, but keep in touch. Let me know. Interested to see how this goes.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, I've seen you on stream, so keep coming on the stream.
Yep.
All right, dude.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. Good luck.
Yep. Bye.